So Des, we're in some wonderful farmland here. Who farmed here?
Well, this was the area where most of the Limerick families settled in the 1860s, coming out from the Loch Bruff area, the Fitzgeralds and the Carrolls from Hospital, and a lot of the families, including the Dineen family.
And is this still called Gisborne here, or
this is actually called Bullengarook.
Bullengarook, okay.
And it's halfway, it's sort of up in the mountainous area of where there's a lot of state forests and a lot of very, very largely forested area, very difficult to clear for farming land, and very large trees.
So is it Ned Dineen, is it you said your
my great-grandfather was Michael Dineen, and there's two Dineen families that settled here. They both came from the Loch area, and they followed the Fitzgeralds, and there was a very strong Irish family. Practically every road and
around this area
is either Carroll Road, Dunn Road, Fitzgerald Road, Dineen Road.
And we saw Dineen Road just along there.
Exactly.
Yeah,
We're in Dineen Road now, and we're overlooking the farmland that the Dineens settled, and they were actually the very first settlers. All that Irish group were the first to settle this area, and they'd have to come along, literally peg it out, peg out their allotment.
Yes.
And then they would have to farm that land and improve it over a number of years.
So take down all the trees, clear the land
and grow crops, and eventually say that they've done enough to pay the £1 per acre to the government for a permanent lease, what they call a Crown land lease.
And so when they got that lease, did they stay long after that?
Yeah, well, the Dineens were here for, and most of those Irish families lasted till at least the 1950s and 60s, even right up to the 1980s. There were still a few left at that stage. So there was over 100 years of really Irish farming in this particular area. They had their own Catholic schools, and they basically just self-funded those schools and the teacher.
Built their own school, got their own teacher in.
Yeah, they had their own teacher, which they paid for, until the government actually built a school, and then they eventually transferred their pupils to the state school.
And did your Dineen stay here, or did they move on from here?
Well, my grandfather had most of his family here. The first 5 children were born in this area, and then but then they moved to a newly settled area in the Curryup swamp area, which is used to call it the Great Swamp, and it was impenetrable basically, and the government decided that in the 1890s that they could use unemployed people for labour to drain that great swamp into farming land, and so when it did eventually get drained, my grandfather went there in 1907, and he actually selected the land at the Curryup in 1902, and his youngest daughter fell into an open fire and got scalded badly from a bad fire burn, so they weren't able to move to their new selection for another couple of years, and so they were in Bullengarook for a bit longer than they.
And in 1907 they moved on then
1907, and my father was born in 1908 in the new settlement of Curryup.
And his name was?
He was Harry Dineen.
Harry
Dineen, named after his grandfather.
Okay.
Yeah, so the Dineens were here for well over, and then Ned, the unmarried brother, continued on here until the 1960s, and he died at a very old age, about 98 or something. And that was about it. There were two Dineen families, and that was where they basically ended up in the 1960s as far as the Dineen name goes here. But we've still got a road named after us.
Yes, so you've got something to remember the Dineens by.
Yes.
And such a wonderful place to look around at.
Yes.
Thanks, Des. It's fantastic here.